All right, well, let's go straight to the lines. Of course, we have a guest on the line from Southern Nazarene University, and we have, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Wedel. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. Thank you.
All right. Well, Doctor, give us a little bit of background information about yourself before we get off specifically into you are the chairperson for the School of Professional Studies. So give us some background information about you.
Yes, I have been in higher education for almost 40 years, actually, and started in public schools years ago in the 70s, moved into higher education, and have been working with adult students for the last 28 years, almost 29 years, here at Southern Nazarene University. It's very rewarding, and I am being faithful to my season of education and love working with adult students.
Well, as far as being the chairperson of the School of Professional Studies, tell us a little bit more in detail what exactly is organizational leadership.
Organizational leadership, it's a great major for students to select. And it's a really good question that you asked that, because it's not uncommon that I get asked that by students as they're making decisions and choices about how to advance their education. And the wonderful thing about organizational leadership is that it is it sounds a little broad-based, but in actuality we have a specific focus. It's a multidisciplinary program, and so we take the theory and practical application of business, management, and communication, and we apply that in the organization so that the student begins to understand the critical impact of professional communication, problem solving, definitely strategic thinking, systems analysis, because systems have to be analyzed to understand where gaps are, where breakdowns can occur, and a critical piece of organizational leadership is understanding change management and how to be a change agent within the organization. And as we know, organizations are having to change swiftly and rapidly in this climate, and it's important that there are people that understand how to implement those strategies and the impact of those strategies to really propel the organizational forward.
Yeah, well, we talked last month with Dr. Dobson about a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. Why is organizational leadership different?
Well, again, another good question. And I think if you laid those two programs, the courses listed for those two programs side by side, you would sort of instinctively see that difference. But to answer the question, the main difference, kind of simplified, is that business administration is sort of driven by financial management. In other words, a student / employee / manager is really looking at the kind of bottom line decision making in the organization, you're going to have marketing, economics, finance, and so it's sort of what we call the managing things and numbers for the organization. Where organizational leadership, it doesn't disregard that, but it identifies how equally important is the managing of people and ideas within the organization. So you're leading and managing people, you're looking at change, you're constantly communicating and making decisions based on the mission, the vision, the environment that the organization's having to move and navigate through. So it really is a marriage there between business administration and organizational leadership. It's just that the focus and the theory and application for those go a couple of different directions.
This sounds like this would strengthen any manager, someone that's looking to enhance their skills and their ability. What are the prerequisites for the organizational leadership?
Well, the wonderful thing about OL is, except for the admissions requirements, which are 60 transferable college credits, there's no course prerequisite. So a student can, or a potential student can, apply. They have 60 transferable credits. They have an advisor that helps them plug some of those into the general ed program, and then they can start immediately. And so there's no actual course prerequisite to get into the program or any sort of entry exam or anything like that.
Okay, someone's listening right now. They're very much so interested. What's the time and or the financial commitment for the program?
Yeah. Well, as we know, anything that is far-reaching is going to take time, energy, money, some sort of investment.
Right.
And the wonderful thing about a college degree, and I would encourage anyone that's even remotely interested to contact us and let's talk with them, because I have a lot of students that'll say, I could buy a luxury car for this, but it's going to that's going to break down, right?
Exactly.
It needs lots of repairs. This is something that they'll have forever, and it propels them in their career, makes them more marketable in the workplace, and many times, even at the bottom line, it is the first screening in an organization. Does this person have a college degree? Yes, no, and it divides the stacks right there. So it's critical, I think, more than ever before, for people to have an education, a college degree, whatever their track is for that. And there is a time commitment, but the wonderful thing is what we've done at Southern Nazarene, and we started our first group in 1986, and we've been doing this for a long time, and we were kind of cutting edge back then. Now there's lots of options and choices for learners to make selections to have an educational partner. But the wonderful thing is we package it in a way that makes it workable for the adult that has professional responsibilities, personal responsibilities. They can be a full-time student, but the way we deliver this is we take into account their sort of immediacy of application, and they come one night a week for 4 hours, and they're responsible to their reading and homework. They're not going to have classes that they're saying, okay, now we're going to go over Chapter 14. Now we're going to go over Chapter 15. They take that information, and the facilitators, really practitioners that are facilitating their learning, they're bringing in expertise and experience. And so the learning environment is enriched by the fact that they are working adults with adult responsibilities. And so they immediately, I have students that say, I'm doing that right now in my organization, or we're trying this right now. Or I went this week. I went and talked to my manager, and we're going to implement some of these things. So there's that readiness of application, which really enriches that classroom. So we make it manageable and doable, kind of one little bite at a time until they're complete.
I love this. I mean, where was this program 20, 25 years ago?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. When I was going through my doctorate, it was like this long, drawn-out, traditional semesters. And so this really allows them to get a degree, and one that really is immediately applicable to what they're doing, and yet still be a mom, be a manager, be a spouse, a daughter, a son, and so we know there's those responsibilities. That doesn't mean there's some give and take. There's some sacrifice during this time period. But you can we have a map, basically, that lets you see the light at the end of the tunnel.
I have to ask you this. I mean, my mind has just been swimming as, you guys were having this conversation. And I'm really overanalyzing this organizational leadership, because for those that are out there that just don't have those types of skills, how are those skills taught? I mean, I'm a type A plus personality. I mean, right. I was just talking to my friend last night. We went out and we were talking about organizing, because we both are very good, organizers. And I have other friends that ask me to come and help them organize or whatnot. But my parents were like that too, so that's kind of a taught, behavior. But I mean, for those people that are just clutter makes sense to them, not being organized makes sense to them. How can they benefit from an organizational leadership course?
Right. Excellent question. The thing is, we know our students do not come in as blank slates.
Okay.
They come in with a wealth of experiences, personal, professional. And so as you're in a cohort group, and what we mean by cohort is they will be in a group that starts the organizational leadership program, and they stay together for the duration of the program. So I tell them, you're not just learning with this group of people, and that's anywhere from 12 to 22 people in that group. But the instructors come and go, but they stay together. So you're not just learning with this group, you are learning from this group as well.
Okay.
So when you have a practitioner, facilitator, faculty, instructor that is bringing experiences and expertise, you have a cohort group that if someone's saying, I just don't see how that's applicable, I don't see how that works, I'm just not that, then you can have other voices saying, I get that, but here's how it impacts then the organization. So you don't just learn, here's what you need to do, but also if you don't, here's the implications of that. And so everyone has strengths and gifts that you tap into, and some are more than another. But you begin to understand, yeah, that might not be my best strength, but this is how it impacts the organization then. Sure. As I'm trying to be an influencer, a change agent, whatever that might be. And that doesn't matter where you are in the organization. Everyone can impact the world, the department, the room, the area, the cubicle, whatever that might be, where they live in the organization. That's what we teach.
The last thing I want to say, and it just came to mind, and I'm just sitting here laughing at myself right now, is, I'm glad that you're talking about this organizational leadership and that everyone does have their own way of organizing things. My father he was a college professor, and we would, he would pick us up from school. I'm kind of giving you the background, and he would leave us in his office as, he was, lecturing his last hour or whatnot. And I took it upon myself because I felt like his desk wasn't organized. So I would always organize it the way that I wanted it to be organized for him. And so when he would come back, he was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, right. I'm making everything nice for you. This is how you do it. And he said, that doesn't work for me. And
right.
By me being so young, I didn't understand that. I'm thinking, Dad, your papers have to line up. This has to be this way. This has to look this way. And he would still get on to me. He would let me do it. I didn't get whoopings for that, believe it or not. But it made sense to me that my way was the right way to organize, not really knowing at such a young age. I just keep saying that because I was young. Everybody has their own way of organizing, and that's okay. So when you said you can kind of take and give and kind of learn from each person, I like that because everybody has their own individual ways of doing things.
Right, and whether you're seeing organizational literally or figuratively, or the organization as a whole, the organizational universe, so to speak, mission, vision, goals, whatever that organization, the product for that organization, you're really looking at how do you lead that entire organization on multi-levels,
right.
But also in the sense of organizing I like your analogy to that, organizing the organization, because it takes lots of influence to move an organization and to transform the organization. And it's moving rapidly. What strategic planning used to be, 3, 5, 10 years. I mean, we're talking 6 months, a few weeks. Where are we supposed to be for next year? We've got to move on that. So it's a fast-paced organizational process that we live in, and it's critical and sets apart the employee that understands that and knows how to navigate effectively through that.
And my question to you, Dr. Wedel, with that being said, as far as this whole program, organizational leadership, can you kind of give us some examples of maybe some students who have been through the program and maybe what their careers have been or where they are now or starting their own organization, or how that would work for those who are listening and still trying to grasp this whole program?
Right. It doesn't matter where you are. And honestly, that's not a cop-out answer. I have students who go to law school. I have students who own their own businesses. I have students who are in manufacturing, who are in product development, are in the banking industry. And so the wonderful applicable process of this degree is that every organization is the same because it's made up of people, and you have the same goals, which is to be effective, pay your bills, have healthy and happy employees, whether you've got 2 or whether you've got 2,000. And so it's just a matter of the size of that, but the principles are really the same. So I have them crossing community service. I have them crossing every industry, and they do well. in that. So there's not any. That is the good thing. There's not any one. Some people will say, well, how do I apply for organizational leadership? You're part of an organization, therefore you are in organizational leadership. So you really can, whatever your dreams, goals, aspirations are, you can get there with this degree.
Well, Dr. Wedel, before we let you go, can we? I'd like to get back specifically more information for someone that's listening and they're interested. Now, tell us a little bit about the bridge courses and accepting someone with 0 credits into the program.
Right. Like I mentioned, you have to have 60 transferable credits to go into one of our degree completion programs. And we have several majors you can do that, organizational leadership being one of them. If you do not have those 60 hours, there's a couple of ways that you can get to that to then go into your major or your degree completion. And one is just recently, and we're really excited about this, we have had approval to begin accepting students at 0 credits, which is brand new for us. And so, again, it's a change. We had to look at that, apply the same things that we learn in organizational leadership about how that impacts the organization. So you can start with 0 credits. You can call with no college experience right now, and our admissions office will talk to you. If you have some, but you don't have the 60, then you can look at our Bridge program, and the Bridge program are standalone courses that help you get to that 60, but they also help fulfill part of the general education requirements as well. Right. And so you still have to, like any organization, have 124 credits, 40 upper division, and you have to meet certain general education, and that is universal. Accrediting agencies, educational accrediting agencies require those for any university. And so you are able to take courses that actually get you to the 60 and help meet some of your general education at the same time. So you can come through several different doors here at Southern Nazarene to complete your degree.
Okay. Well, that's great information. Well, can you let our listeners know, give them some information concerning your admissions team if they want some information now?
Yes, they can contact our admissions team, and they'll have a representative that will talk with them at area code 405-491-6332. Or you can always go to snu.edu/SNU for adults, all one word.
Okay. All right. Dr. Wedel, thank you very much for this great information.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Of course, that's Southern Nazarene University, and great program. Of course, Dr. Wedel is the chairperson for the School of Professional Studies and that organizational leadership.
I like that.